hits. Just
Lady, lovely lady. I've seen fire.
You know, I was in the studio here last week and thought it might be interesting to give a few short histories of songs that were on the radio on Thanksgiving Day 1970, which was November 26th that year. Since the U.S. holiday is traditionally a very family-oriented event and has many memories associated with it, probably these songs could stir some of those memories for you. For those of you who don't live in the U.S., or for those of you who weren't at least 10 years old in November of 1970, this is still an opportunity to hear some histories of songs that were on the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 near the end of 1970. Enjoy.
Green-eyed lady, lovely lady.
Green-Eyed Lady, Sugarloaf. Not only was it on Sugarloaf's debut album, it was their first single as well. It was written by band members Jerry Corbetta, J.C. Phillips, and David Riordan. Corbetta said that he wrote about his green-eyed girlfriend, Kathy. The ascending organ notes at the beginning of the song were directly from a keyboard exercise book owned by Jerry. It proved to be an effective hook. There were 3 different versions of this thing pressed, each of a different length. The first one was 5 minutes and 58 seconds long, deemed too long to be commercially viable for AM radio. The promotional single for distribution to radio stations was edited down to 2 minutes 58 seconds, and although it was within the typical bounds of AM radio timing standards, it was missing some important segments. The most common 45 RPM version is the 3-minute 33-second version, although the full album version did enjoy airplay on FM album rock stations. The strange, wavering, detuned sound heard at the end of the song from the Hammond B3 organ was achieved by momentarily switching the tone wheel-driven instrument off and then switching it back on. Switching it off caused the tone wheels to decelerate and hence caused the resulting notes to temporarily go flat until the instrument was turned back on. Meanwhile, while all of this was going on, the organ was still plugged into an amplifier, so you heard the sound go flat and then come back to normal pitch.
I've seen fire and I've seen rain.
Fire and Rain, James Taylor. I did a full video on this song in July of 2024. I'll put a link in the comments if you're interested. At 20 years of age, James was in rehab for the second time at the Austin Riggs Center in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. While there, he learned about the suicide of his girlfriend Suzanne Schneer, the Suzanne in the lyrics, and carried his emotions into the song. It became, of course, a runaway hit. Peter Asher was the producer, as he had been for the disastrous Apple album, but both him and James learned from that experience, recognizing that the recordings on the Apple album were simply overproduced, meaning that they had too many layers of sounds that distracted from James' natural talent and personal delivery.
In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina.
Because of that, the production of Fire and Rain was deliberately kept simple, as were all of the songs on the Sweet Baby James album.
Just yesterday morning, they let me know.
The formula proved to be quite successful, with Fire and Rain finally peaking at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. James has played that song for eager audiences ever since, even though he admits that more than once during the performance of it, his mind has wandered because of the routine and he's lost his place in the song. Such can be the trappings of playing your hit song live for 50 years.
We've only just begun.
We've only just begun. Carpenters. I did a complete video on this song as well in July of 2025, and I'll put a link in the comments. This was the Carpenters' second hit, peaking at number 2 on October 31st, although by November 26th it had slipped to number 4. Having its beginnings as a commercial for Crocker Citizens National Bank, the musical production genius of Richard Carpenter transformed it into a skillfully crafted single with a one-of-a-kind sound. With the talent of contract musicians Hal Blaine on drums and bassist Joe Osborne, The piano work of Richard Carpenter and the intricate multi-tracked vocals of him and his sister Karen filled the record with rich harmonies and pinpoint-accurate instrumental backgrounds. One of the important things to remember about this recording is that there was no such thing as vocal auto-tune in 1970. These complex vocals were made through the use of unmodified, direct multi-track recording. I'll Be There, Jackson 5. I'll Be There was the first single released from the band's third album, creatively named Third Album. The preceding 3 Jackson 5 hits were written by a 4-person team consisting of Berry Gordy, Freddie Perrin, Phonce Mizell, and Deke Richards, a team which Gordy dubbed the Corporation. I'll Be There was written by Gordy and 3 other writers, although there is an asterisk here. Bob West, an associate of Hal Davis in the Motown West office in Los Angeles, wrote the first rendition. Davis then touched up the song, and then another songwriter, Willie Hutch, worked on the rewriting of the lyrics. Once Willie had finished, Hal Davis pitched it to Motown boss Berry Gordy, and here's the asterisk, Gordy then made his own changes and took a songwriting credit. The 4 number-1 song streak of I'll Be There, ABC, The Love You Save in 1970, and I Want You Back in 1969 made the Jackson 5 the first group to have their first 4 singles reach number 1, a milestone not touched by any artist up to that time, even by the Beatles, who scored only 3 consecutive number 1s. Unlike the Beatles, though, the Jackson 5s never had another number 1 hit. I Think I Love You, the Partridge Family. Much like the Monkees, even though they were manufactured, the success of the TV group The Partridge Family can't be argued with. Noting the friction that had developed between Coal Gems and the Monkees during their show, the producers went out of their way to cast actors that had no musical ambitions whatsoever. The only cast members who did were Shirley Jones and David Cassidy. True to the producer's plan, no other Partridge Family cast member actually performed on the recording. Although David Cassidy did sing the lead and his real-life mother, Shirley Jones, sang the background, the recording was made with the talents of session musicians and other artists. The background vocals were likewise done with contract talent, the Ron Hicklin Singers, and a 4-man subgroup of that organization who called themselves the Love Generation, who ended up singing on all remaining Partridge Family recordings. It was the fictional band's debut single and was released on August 22nd of 70, a month prior to the first episode of the TV series. It went to number 1 on the Hot 100 in November after twice being featured on the show and remained at the top for 3 weeks. It was in the top 10 on 9 international charts, peaking at number 1 on 4 of those. In a couple of interesting cross-connections, Tony Romeo, the songwriter who penned I Think I Love You, also wrote Indian Lake, which was a hit for the Cowsills, the group on which the Partridge Family was based. Also, the session guitarist Louis Shelton was the same contract musician who played the guitar hook on the Monkees recording Last Train to Clarksville. So there you go. Did this stir any memories that you have about the holiday week in the U.S. in 1970? Feel free to comment and share your memories with us. You can also use comments to suggest video subject matter that covers pop music and pop music culture between the 1950s and the 1970s. I hope that you enjoyed this brief look at the songs that were hot on the AM radio for the week ending Saturday, November 28, 1970. And I know this may seem like a trivial thing to do, but you can really help support the YouTube channel and the Facebook page just by clicking on the arrow icon to share this video with your friends. You can also show your support by clicking on the like, thumbs up icon, clicking on the subscribe button on YouTube, or the follow button on Facebook. And don't forget that you can upgrade your subscription on YouTube or your following status on Facebook by becoming a channel member on YouTube or subscribing to the Facebook page. Either one of these actions will give you early exclusive access to new content before it's released to the public. Thanks a million for watching.